Hi everyone, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Hope 2019 is going to be a good year for you all. I've just made a very quick video here to show you a little modification I did to my Esbit spirit burner cooker, so I thought you might be interested. I whipped up this little pouch for it with the sewing machine and reused the bootlace from my a really great pair of Timberland trainers that I had that lasted me forever, and when they finally gave up the ghost I salvaged any sort of material off it, including the shoelaces that I could reuse in the spirit of waste not want not. So handy little pouch for it. The spirit burner, you can see one of the mods that I've done that I've attached to it is this little leather strap that I've made with a little Sam Brown kind of fixing here. One of the things I noticed that when I used the burner out on the land, it was my first time using it. When I sealed it up again and later on I wanted to use it again, wow, I could barely take the lid off. It was so tight, and it kind of must seal itself on. I mean, here it's quite loose obviously, but I have seen on other videos techniques that people use, because this lid must get really kind of almost like a vacuum that seals it really tight, and honestly I really struggled to undo it, and as I mentioned probably in a previous video, I sprained my fingers earlier this year, and my grip isn't really perfect on this hand anymore. This one particular joint is problematic, so I found it and I do find it really difficult to get a good strong grip on things and undo them. And I saw a guy use paracord to do a handy kind of wrap to twist it off, and I came up with the idea similar to what you would see on the tools that you use for taking off an oil can, canister when you're changing your oil. So I made this. I had a piece of old leather strap lying around, and the technique I would use to do this, you can see I just made a little, oh, it's got to wear out a little bit, is I would use it very much like you would take the oil filter off your car. I wrap it around like that and grip it really just tight here like that, hold the bottom and just twist, and it comes off every time. And I have tried it, I've had this locked on tight, and I use that technique and it was very, very simple. So if you have a piece of old leather, an old leather belt or something, cut a strip off. I made it into this kind of cool little design because I wanted to keep it on the burner at all times so that I've always got it. So I cut it to the required length, made into this, and it fits really, when you put the lid back on, it fits really neatly, literally right over the top. And then I can pop it into the, oops, of course it's fumbling around now, looks very unprofessional. Yeah, there we go. Fits nice and neatly, perfectly on there. When you need it, just pop it off. So that's just a very simple, easy little mod. It works for me using a piece of leather. I'm sure if you've got another technique that you use more simply, especially the paracord one, of course, by all means, use that as well. But I just thought you might like to see it. Works for me, and very, very simple. The modification that I've done to this Esbit cooker is, again, something I haven't seen anyone else do, but one of the things that the reason why I chose this Esbit cooker over the Trangia one is that this one, I'll just take the lid off again, has this burner adjuster on it, and as you know, you just flip it up. Oops. And when you're cooking away, you can adjust the size of the flame on the burner if you want to use that and not have it too powerful, too strong, the flame. You can just, and it has this built-in handle and lid that you can just swivel like that. And also clearly if you want to snuff it out, you can snuff it. Now the Trangia one doesn't have this handle on it, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. And I noticed that with the Trangia one, a lot of people had difficulty when they came to, that's slightly locked on, swiveling it to use the the handle, sorry. So, of course, when I got my burner, the first thing I did was, this was all locked in place, as you can imagine, And for any of you that have an Esbit one, you'll know that here I've blind riveted mine on. It just has a normal, what they call Urzen, or an eyelet. And when I got mine and it was quite stiff, I obviously opened it up, undid it, and just did that a couple of times to loosen it. And I nearly said a bad word then. Woe me! The eyelet came off. And of course, I mean, I could find another one and hammer it and put it back on. But to me, I thought, well, that's ridiculous, that coming off. And I thought the simplest way would be just to pop rivet it or blind rivet it on, which is what I've done here. It's not pretty. I haven't done a very beautiful job of it. But what I did do when I put it on is I took a little metal file to it. And what was critical in I did try it with a little nut and bolt, and I filed the head of the bolt down. But when I got to the underside, the problem was that you had to have that really quite flush, because when you put it back on top of this lid, there's a really tiny gap in between there, and you'll see it when I put it on like this. You'll notice that gap there, and if you don't get it right, the lid, this section doesn't really snap on very well. So I didn't like the nut and bolt thing, which could have worked if I'd found the right size. And then I thought, well, I have a pop riveter at home and I haven't had a lot of practice using it, so I thought I would use it. And of course it works perfectly now. That's never going to come off unless I'm really, you know, strong and aggressive with it. It locks on nicely when you cinch it down there, and you can use it for snuffing purposes like that. Easy. But then if you slightly lift it and unlock it, you can swivel it every time. And actually, a lot of people I notice, because that's so stiff, when they go to swivel it, the whole thing just moves around like this. It's a really nightmare. But I think that works actually quite smoothly if it was in situ. So I'm quite pleased with that. So if you have the similar Esbit cooker and you're finding that the lid isn't working as effectively as you'd like, maybe it's worth having a go at just pop riveting it. As I said, it's not pretty, but I took a little metal file, filed down the top half, and that way the handle stays nice and flush as well. It doesn't slightly stick up, because that would slightly bug me, I think. So that's my little mod for my Esbit cooker with its own little pouch. I hope you like seeing that, and I hope you find that useful. And finally, just one thing, I've seen so many videos of these kind of cat food tin candles and things where you recycle old candles. I've got my Christmas wreath over here, very pretty one, and when that finishes and there's candle left over, then my intention is to recycle those. So I just wanted to show you, I had a go at making one. Never made one before. Here in Austria, I had a tin of Zwiebel Aufstrich. This is a bit like an onion meaty spread. Very strong, very tough tin. And obviously, I mean, I don't have cats because I'm allergic to them, but so I can't use a pet food can or anything. So this size actually works really well. And I just did that classic thing. Rolled up some corrugated cardboard inside there. This actually is quite a thick wick that I had left over from an oil lamp that I was renovating. So I've just popped a little bit of that in the middle and just melted the wax, the traditional way of using a kind of stainless steel bowl inside a pan of boiling water. Melted the old wax off an old candle that had finished burning and filled that up. And I've yet to burn it, yet to test how long it burns for. Done a wee test, you can see on the wick. And so next time I'm out in the land, we use that as a long burning candle, or possibly even a cooker if you really were desperate. So we'll see how that goes. So I hope you enjoyed seeing, oops, sorry, a bit noisy, those two little mods today. All fits quite nicely into my Tatonka cup there, ready to be packed away. So as I said again, Happy New Year for 2019, and I hope it's a good one for you. All the best. Bye bye.